If you watched my last video, you probably noticed that the spell from before looked like. Yeah, it looked disgusting. So, how did I turn it from absolute dog shit to absolute cinema? Well, a couple things. For one, it's missing a lot of visual effects. It needs to actually charge in the hand, leave behind a trail as it moves, and explode. And when things explode, what else comes to mind? Trick question, the answer is sound and camera shake. Alright, now that we have some sort of plan, it's time to actually code it. Since I operate under the philosophy of procrastinate the difficult things until the very end, I'm starting with the easies. Okay, that took way too long, and a ton of shaders, but now we have something tangible to work with when adding it in game. Now the projectile at this point kind of just shoots from the center of the screen, and it looks absolutely vile. So to make it actually shoot from the hand, we need the position of the hand in world space. If you don't know what that means, that's fine because the code is already on your screen. Which I borrowed from someone. Alright, that works, but it's inside the elbow rather than in the hand for some reason. To fix this, I'll offset it forward by about 0.3 blocks. This is super easy, since transform matrices have translation built in. I just need to pass in the offset and... what is happening? Okay, turns out I had the translation the wrong way around. Now no matter how much I move or turn, it always follows my hand. I also made it launch from the hand position while you weren't looking, which looks so much better, but still, it doesn't feel like I'm holding a star in my hand. So, hear me out. If we think about the Minecraft camera like an actual, real-life camera, we know that adjusting the exposure to match a really bright object will make everything else appear a bit darker. And if the sun is a really bright object. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. But how do we actually darken the whole screen and make it look like it's glowing? Well, like most things in life, I don't know. Just kidding, the solution is actually really simple, and it's called post-processing shaders. However, because Minecraft's system for doing this can only be described as complete and utter garbage, I'm using an API called Velvet. I started working on the shader, and it's kind of getting there, but it's not quite a circle. If you think about it though, it's kind of obvious because screens are wider than they are tall. So, after adjusting the width to the aspect ratio, we have a circle. Now it needs a couple more things like dimming at the edges, and blending with the world behind it. I'm gonna skip to the future and finish all that. It's the future now, and it's finished. It's a subtle effect, but that dimming of the edges and slight glow really sells the intensity of the sun. I think it needs a tiny bit of camera shake to really juice it up, but we'll come back to that later. For now, let's address the elephant staring through my window. The charging of the spell feels solid, but nothing else has visual effects. Remember those VFX from earlier that were on screen for 2 seconds? Well, it's time to actually add them, and luckily my spell system makes this incredibly easy. First, I'll attach the trail to the projectile. It works, but there's just one problem. To make the effect move with the projectile, I use Photon's system of binding it to the entity. While this works great most of the time, it also makes it despawn when the entity it's attached to dies. Fixing this is quite easy though, using something called a dummy entity. If the dummy entity is set to persist in an orphaned state, then we can have the effect target that instead, and just remove it after a few ticks. It works, so far it's looking pretty cool, but there's one thing it's missing. Yeah, it needs to explode. Again, this is super easy to add with my spell engine and it literally takes one line of code. That's looking pretty good. And with that, the VFX are fully done. But you might be realizing something, assuming you have functioning ears. Unless you're watching the video muted. Anyway, there's no sound effects. Now I'm by no means a sound designer, but I have done my fair share of flinging random bullshit at the wall until it sticks. If there's anything I can do, it's making miracles out of doing things in the worst way possible. Anyway, I'm gonna go browse freesounds.org and see if I find anything. Okay, so most of these suck, but some don't. This fireball should work great for the intense burst when launching the projectile. It should also work for the projectile traveling through the air too. Then, for the explosion, I want it to sound like it's sucking in the air around it as the star collapses. I'll explain later, just trust the process. Anyway, it needs to end with a huge explosion and a lot of bass to really sell the impact. Ah, perfect. This reminds me of my childhood on Alderaan. Good times. In other news, I've finished the first sound effect. I took that fireball sound from before and, like a true professional, adjusted random shit until it sounded good enough. It begins with the sound played in reverse to sound like it's charging up, then the release is shifted down in pitch. Next up, we need a sound for the projectile flying through the air. Because I want to keep the sound consistent, I'm using the same fireball sound from before. However, this doesn't really work on its own, because the sound is too short. The projectile can travel any distance, so the sound must be looping. So to fix that, I yet again employ the technique of spending 2 hours doing it my way, instead of properly researching the topic. I stacked 3 layers of different tempos and pitches to give it that whooshing sound. Now, you're probably screaming at me through the screen wondering what the hell the other 4 sounds here are. Not to worry. Like that one lazy teacher you probably had, I'll write on the board what they do instead of explaining them. And here it is all together. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, it better. Okay, I saved the best for last, time for the explosion. If you've ever heard an explosion, you know they go car, and then boom. And if you've never heard an explosion before, check your mailbox. Anyway, remember that vacuum I put in the video for some reason. I told you it actually has a purpose, and that purpose is to be the car before the boom. Then for the boom, I'll use the sound of Alderaan's demise, combined with an impact sound and a bit of lingering fire for the sparks. Now we combine the two, and we finally have a juicy kaboom. That actually checks off all the sounds as well, so let's implement them in game to see how they feel. Alright, not bad, but I just showed on screen that it still needs camera shake. Now, you might think that you just have to randomly move the camera around, and boom, camera shake. But no, you idiot, doing it this way looks like shit. To fix this, we need to use noise. Basically, what noise does is it makes the next value smoothly transition from the previous value, using math and stuff. But luckily Minecraft has a bunch of noise functions we can use. And with that, Stasis the Shattered, present to you, the same thing you saw in the first 10 seconds of the video. It's finally done, is what I'd like to say, but there's still a few things left to do. It's already taken way too long to get to this point, so in my next video, I'll make it, blow up entities, destroy blocks, and start working on a functional system for selecting and casting spells. And yes, that means I have many more spells planned, since having just this one would make for quite a shitty mod. This spell will be called Coronal Conflagration, and is one of 3 major spells. Right now, I plan to have 5 minor spells, 3 major spells, and 2 ultimate spells called Mind Spaces, which will be even crazier and even more time consuming to make than the one in this video. Speaking of which, you know what else is crazy? The fact that the video is over.